Hello, my name is Dakota Gordon. Today I'm here with music legend John Ford Coley, one half of the iconic duo England Dan and John Ford Coley. John, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. It's truly
Thank
an
you.
honor.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Now, John, you and Dan have created some of the most enduring music of the 1970s. Your love and heartbreak songs, like I'd Really Love to See You Tonight and It's Sad to Belong, have become fan favorites and are still discovering new audiences with the new generations today. But before all of the success, you and Dan actually have a little bit of history. You guys, I believe, went to the same high school and actually were in a band together before your iconic duo. Can you walk me through a little bit about how you and Dan first connected musically and when you realized you had a unique offering by going off together as a duo?
Well, it's interesting because I started off I was about 15, maybe close to 16. Dan and I went to the same school, but Dan and I never saw one another. Dan was on the work program, so he'd take off about 10 o'clock in the morning. You come in, do a couple classes. And so their bass player, they were looking for another guitar player. And they had one that quit in their band because his girlfriend wanted him not be in the band anymore. So the guys in the band wanted a keyboard player. Dan wanted another guitar player. So I ended up auditioning for it. I got the gig. I knew about as much about rock and roll as I know about open heart surgery. It's just I was classically trained, so I didn't
Mhm.
have any of those things in my life really. And I went over and just kind of faked my way through it and ended up getting the gig. Dan did not like me because he did not want me in the band. He wanted another guitar player. And so we were just like this, like flour and water. We just could not connect. And so then we would travel to various gigs because we were pretty popular. So we'd be gone quite a bit. And Dan and I discovered that we could sing together. We could do all these sorts of things musically. So we'd sing Everly Brothers and Righteous Brothers and the Brother Brothers and all that kind of music. And we just kind of discovered that we had a certain sound together. Dan always took the lead because Dan was a phenomenal lead singer. And he also played sax in the band. So I played keyboard and then sometimes I sang harmony. And we just developed this sound after a while. And we got to be best friends in the world.
Yeah, it seems like you almost had like you challenged each other. You had some like forces challenging each other.
We did. We just actually would do that. We'd push one another. Dan was very country oriented plus rock. And then I was very classically oriented, plus the blues and the rock and all the folk. I loved folk. So we both brought a lot to the table and it just kind of blended all together.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And you being classically trained as a pianist, so you had that influence, and then
Right.
you said you also had some folk influence. Were you
Right.
influenced at all by the times with like the British invasion and then like the American band of the time, like the Doors and the Beach Boys?
I was involved in a lot of that stuff, but by the same token, what I leaned toward was more of the folk.
Hmm.
Peter, Paul, and Mary, the duos like Peter and Gordon.
Hmm.
There was a lot of very good music. There were strong melodic traits, plus the fact that those guys got up and they generally played solo or they played acoustically, and that was something that I was very drawn to. Then later on, I got into the Beatles and the Stones and the Doors, like you just mentioned, and a lot of the various groups. But I liked groups that were not so simplistic that it was silly. I like
Hmm.
things that had melodic structure to them, plus heavy chords. I was just talking with somebody the other day about that because we got on the line about the Harlan Howard three chords in the Truth, and I went, well, that's good, but I mean, that's kind of boring too, because what about that fourth and fifth and sixth and eighth chord? It's like I love the symphonic qualities of things, but the melodies were the things that actually drove me more than anything else, because you have a good melody, it's something you can sing. You've got good lyrics, strong lyrics. That was something that I was very much drawn to. And then you got the whole thing at that point.
And you can definitely see that in your work. And what surprised me was I was looking through your catalog, and you and Dan were really only together for less than 10 years, but the amount of hits you had and the amount of time your music has carried, it just seems like it's so much longer. What do you think it is about your songs that have sustained this amount of time, and what keeps people listening to them, do you think?
I truthfully think that it was the melodies. It's something you can sing along to. Plus, we were fortunate in the fact that we came along to where there was a memory lane aspect to it. So when you hear this song, you remember you were here doing this. You remember hear this song, you were there doing that. And I'm attracted by that myself. Um, it was really quite a shock to me because about a year and a half ago, I was on a cruise and we were
Mhm.
playing one of these rock and romance kinds of things. You know,
Yeah.
you have a bunch of different groups come up. And so I got asked to go over and play with Peter Asher.
Oh,
Peter
wow.
Asher was in a band called Peter and Gordon. He produced James Taylor and Linda Ronstadt and brought all those great artists to life. And so I got asked to play. And then when I stepped off stage, a guy jumped up and he said, "Hey, they're going to be singing A World Without Love. Would you sing on it with everybody?" And I went, "Yeah, yeah, wait a minute. How's that go? How's that go?" And he went, "Please lock me." I said, "I know it. I know it." And this is like 1964. So I get back up on stage with Susan Calcill from the Calcills. And Susan and I go way back. So we're sitting there and we're singing. I didn't miss a beat. And all of a sudden, I had a vision of Dan and I back when we were in the band starting out. We would go along in the car, like I said, we'd sing all these songs. And I found that was one that we sang. And I found myself overwhelmed. And Susan looked at me and said, "You okay? You okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm good." But people come up, and I'm sure that every artist goes through this all the time, and they say, "Man, your song, this one and this one did this to me. My boyfriend," it just goes on like that. And as I sat there, I went, "Damn, that's how that feels." Because I had never experienced that personally because I'm playing all the time. So it doesn't have the same meaning to me, but it hit me and I went, wow, that really does have an impact on people's lives. It kind of molded your life in a lot of ways. We were much more interested in music than people are now. You know, they don't wait for the
Mhm.
next Beatles song. They don't wait for the next Kinks or Dave Clark, whatever we did then because it was a very integral part of our lives. And I just sat there and marveled and went, geez, I get it. I get after all this time, I get it.
And I know like artists like Paul McCartney have been asked this before, but how does it feel when people come up to you and, you know, they feel like you've been part of their life, even though you've never actually met them? They kind of feel like they already have that relationship with you.
That's very true because again, the music is the thing that brought us all together.
Hmm.
And I mean, I had the same feelings. You know, I look at people like Paul McCartney and go, wow, man, you know, to be able to play with that guy, that would be a real thrill. To be able to play on Ringo's, you know, whatever thing that he does. Because I've played with so many people over the years. And it's been such a, not only a blessing, but it's been a real thrill. It's like about a year and a half ago, I got a very close friend, Cherie Currie. She was in a
Hmm.
band called the Runaways. And so Cherie and I had been friends for like 15 years, but we had never met. Believe it or not, we talked all the time. We texted all the time. We just not been in a place where we physically met. So I went through LA and I went, hell, and I gave her a call. And I said, Cherie, come meet me over here. So we finally met. Next thing I know, she's doing her last show at the Whiskey and she said, "Come up and play with me." I'm on stage singing, you know, Cherry Bomb. It was the biggest thrill, you know, and I said, "Dang." I'm up here playing with Cherie Currie from the Runaways, and you run into these different people because we play in a thing called Rock the Dock, and you have an opportunity to play with Ambrosia or Peter Beckett from Player or Stephen Bishop or Al Stewart, all these various acts,
Hmm.
and you get exposure to that kind of music. And as I listen to it, my only thought is, doggone, man, there was some good, strong music during that time. It's something that kind of reached in, grabbed you, and pulled it out of you, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and along with the melodies, I think something that you see in a lot of groups, including yours, is the harmonies being
Right.
so like strong, and people listening don't always realize how important that is until they would hear it without the harmonies.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, now when I play, most of the time I play acoustically, so there is no harmony. This is just me. And because I sang the harmony, I kind of mix them in. Dan was the easiest person in the world to put a harmony with because Dan was very country. So when he sang, it was very pedantic. It was just right on the beat. For me to follow that was very easy. As a matter of fact, when we sang Not So Forever Without You, I'd had strep throat. So I was having difficulty hearing. And Kyle, our producer, said, John, you're singing sharp. I've never heard you sing sharp before. He said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play Dan up to the point that you come in. Then when he comes in, I'm going to cut his vocal out. And you're going to be singing a cappella to yourself, just the track in you. I sang a lot of that album like that because I had the spacing and the rhythm already because Dan was a drop dead on the note. Now, when I sing harmony, if you go back and you listen to some of the songs I sang, ironically enough, I also sing harmony because Dan didn't sing harmony and he definitely couldn't sing harmony to me because I'm very syncopated. I don't go, and the reason why. I said, and the reason why, it's all over the place for me. So I've got that in my head, so I can sing harmony to myself.
So on Nights and Forever, when you recorded that, you were singing with Strep.
I was singing with strep throat, yeah,
Wow.
strep throat. I think I did 2 or 3 songs like that.
And
It was
those are some high
it's
notes.
kind of
Those aren't
fun.
easy notes to hit.
Yeah, no, they're not. And I was having to sing up where only dogs can hear it. I have no idea how I got those notes.
But I think it's just amazing because I feel like those harmonies that you did with Dan, they'd almost be impossible to replicate with anybody else. There was something
Yeah.
special about what you and Dan were able to create with your voices that when they were layered on each other, they just fit
They
perfectly.
fit. And that was the surprising thing because I would try to sing harmony with other people and it didn't gel the way that it did with Dan. That was the amazing thing. We just happened to hit on a certain whatever it was. And again, I've not been able to replicate that with other people at all. They asked me, Dan's manager said, have you thought about getting someone else to go out as like an England Dan singing the parts? I went, no, not a chance at all. I don't even want to broach that because again, first of all, it was something that was special and I'm not going to
Mhm.
cheapen it to do that, number one. But I mean, I have not found that.
There's just something special, I think, when you can get two voices that fit that perfectly.
Right.
That's really what makes it a group from good to great.
Well, Dan and I ended up being like brothers, and we actually had been, I don't know, we use the word accused or blessed, but having a brothers blend. Because when you get brothers like the Everly brothers and people like that, they sing together. They've got the same DNA. They've got the same blood coursing through their veins. There's something connected. There was something that I could not explain. There was a connection to Dan, and Dan had the same connection to me.
When the duo parted ways, you guys kind of went in your own direction, but did you guys remain friends through that time?
Not for a long time. There was a lot of difficulties that came out of that. Most bands end up with a very strong unity when they begin. And
Hmm.
then by the time they get towards the end, there's a lot of other people who have no business being in your business that weed their way through. Oh, you're the singer, you're the lead singer. Oh, you're better than him. He'll go on. You get all kinds of nonsense. You got girlfriends, boyfriends. They all get in there in these bands, and they all break up, and you go, it didn't have to be that way. If you guys, because Dan and I were both very solution oriented people. I don't want to sit here and argue about this for 10 minutes. Let's do it. That's it. That's the solution. We're done. Let's go forward. And that's the premise that we worked on. So working with Dan was very easy until other people got in the mix.
But you guys had a chance to make up.
Yeah, I mean, when Dan died, and Dan died in 2009, and when Dan died, I talked to him just before he died. It's just Danny and John. There was no animosity. I don't fight, old arguments in the shower
Mhm.
and stuff. I mean, it was over. Dan was my brother. I love the man to death. We had a great career together. He went on, he had a great career in country, did very well. I went off into film. Mine was less visible than his was, but we still had careers.
No, I think that's amazing because I think a lot of times when bands break up, people blow it out of proportion maybe a little bit, and so that's nice that you guys were able to make up and clear the air.
Yeah, I think we did. I mean, like I said, I mean, Dan, I love Dan. That was just it.
Mhm.
We'd spend all that time together. I went through his marriages. He went through mine. I raised his kids. He raised mine. I still talk to his kids. I talk to his sister all the time. She's my sister, so I don't have any of those kinds of issues to deal with.
That's amazing. Um, I want to talk a little bit about I'd really love to see you tonight, just because it's such an iconic song. It hit number 2 on Billboard. I mean, I feel like pretty much everybody and their kids know that song at this point. I mean, I in high school I was in a cappella group and we did an a cappella version of that song.
Oh, no kidding. Wow. Okay, cool.
So it's just an amazing song, and it was really cool when we got to sing it actually because everybody was doing parts that were parts of the piano too. So
Yeah.
you kind of got to hear all the little different parts of it that you wouldn't normally get to hear.
Yeah.
What do you think made that song so successful that it's been able to live on?
Well, first of all, I'll tell you one thing. I had a friend of mine recently. She likes to do karaoke, and so she just sent me a karaoke thing, and I thought it was going to be something like "Really Love to See You Tonight." And I wrote her back, and I said, "The song that you're singing, you do know that that was the song that kept Really Love to See You Tonight from being the number one song." And she went, "Which one?" I went, "Play that funky music, white boy." And I was laughing, and then she started laughing. But I mean, the ironic thing about that was Dan and I both kind of fashioned ourselves singer-songwriters. We had done the first 3 albums. We really enjoyed the aspect of writing songs and being able to bring those to life. When we ended up getting, I'd really love to see you tonight. Neither one of us wanted to do it. Both said, no, that's kind of a female song. No, I don't really want to do that. And so then they talked us into it. So we did it. It takes off, fires up the charts, and I see the first royalty check. And at that point, I realized just how mercenary I could be. I found myself calling Parker McGee, who wrote the song, and going, Parker, hey, buddy, what else you got? It was just like, wait a minute. I want to be a singer-songwriter. That's what I want to be known for. However, there's this thing called rent and groceries, and I'd like a car that runs. And so you just kind of go, all right, I think there's something else. But what I really gleaned from that was the fact that there's a lot of good songwriters out there. There's a lot of great songs. And if you pass them up, yeah, okay, your ego's solved. But that's not a good business decision. And you've got to have two things. You can play in bars all your life if you want to, or you can take the next level up. And we just took the next level up. So yeah, and I've come to love that song over the years. I joke about it and make fun of it and stuff. And the Shannon, Joe's wife, the bass player in Ambrosia, she kind of road manages us a little bit. And when we go out together with Ambrosia, And she said, "Yeah, you do know that that song was called the Booty Call song of 1976, don't you?" And I went, "No, I didn't know that. That's cool." So, you just kind of joke about things like that.
And I know you know this, but I know a lot of people get confused on the lyrics of the chorus.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I was talking to my mom maybe a couple weeks ago, and she was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I love that song." And then she starts singing it, and she's like, "I'm not talking about millennium." And I'm like, "Where'd you
Yep.
even get millennium from? Was that even a word in the 70s?"
I know that again, I get tagged on that song all the time. Millennium, Lennon, Bolivia, M&M's. You just get all kinds of different things. And so I just laugh about it. But I remember being in the Philippines and I had done an acoustic version of the song. And when I came out, the guy that was working on it with me said, "You got that lyric wrong, don't you?" And just cracked up laughing. I said, "Okay, what do you think it is?" Well, he surprised me. He gave me another area of the song. It says, "There's a warm wind blowing, the stars are out." And I said, "Okay, after all this time, it's the stars around. Trust me on this, okay?" So, and again, you get that all the time. I'll make a big joke out of it sometimes when I play. I'll say, and when I start singing, I go, "I'm not talking about," and then I scream out. I stop playing and go, "Moving in," and everybody laughs, because again, they know,
Because
okay,
everybody
well, I did
knows.
think it was that.
Mhm.
So it's been a real boon for me. I mean, do you realize how many songs lyrically that I've been able to misunderstand from somebody else and find out that that was not the lyric, and I go, "Okay, now I got a whole new lyric," and put that in another song. It's because we misunderstood those things. We didn't have internet. You're just making it up as you go along.
No, it's so funny because now with like Spotify and Apple Music, if you're not listening to a record or a CD, it's so easy just to see the lyrics on your
Yeah.
phone. But
There's no excuse now, you
yeah,
can look
there's
at
no
it,
more
but
excuses.
you would be surprised at the number of lyric things that I look at still that have it wrong. And I just sit there and laugh and go, "Wow, okay, maybe I'm wrong."
I want to talk a little bit also about the activism that you've done in your music, especially in that album, the Live in LA and Israel. I
Yeah.
mean, it's really beautiful how you're able to not only like write good songs, but also express your feelings and your beliefs in the music.
I am a strong, strong supporter of Israel and the Jews. I've studied in synagogues for like 20
Mhm.
years, just reading, learning, educating myself because I was born a Christian, and then I'm still a believer. So, but to put those things in, find the the basis for everything and study that and then watch what's going on, read incessantly. I mean, I have read so many books between 1929 and 1948 in partition. And again, I've gone there and I've seen things, studied the Bible, studied archaeology, studied the history of all of it. Studied, I mean, I've got friends that were in the Holocaust. I know their children well, and you learn a lot of stuff. So it's like I watch what's going on because I don't get involved in political stuff. I just
Mhm.
don't. Because you can't solve it. And if I can't solve it, then I'm not going to waste my time with it. But yeah, to me, it's really research. That's what I used to really enjoy very much. And because I would read all the time, especially when Dan and I were touring together, we'd be stuck on planes constantly. I could go through a James Michener book, 600 pages in 2 days. It
Mhm.
wasn't a problem.
No, but that's beautiful that you actually performed in Israel. I mean, I was just there about a year ago, and I mean,
Okay.
it's beautiful to
It is.
see artists going there and supporting it.
Well, not only the artists, but I tell you the funny thing about I've had people come up and they'll say, "Well, I'm going to Israel." I go, "Okay, who are you going with?" "Well, we got this tour group doing stuff." I go, "No, no, no. go with the Jews. It's their land. They know what's going on over there. You got to do that. If you go
Mhm.
with Christians, that's great. That's lovely, but you're not going to be getting the foundation of stuff. So, and then for me to go to Israel and see all these places that I'd read about in partition in the 1948 situation where Israel becomes a nation, that was something because that was even closer history.
No, yeah, it's amazing that you were able to see that in person.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And also, I want to talk a little bit about it's amazing that you're still on the road today. You're doing a lot of shows. I was looking at your list of upcoming shows. You have one that you're doing a show with John Oates, I saw in Boca.
Right. Uh-huh.
So that, I mean that's really cool. It's kind of cool. You guys are two people who were in a duo kind of. So that's
I'm so excited about that because I've known of John for, gosh, since they were recording. And I always admired their music. Those guys had some big hits. They had some very melodic stuff. And I appreciated the production on things that they did. I've never played with him. I've never met him. And I understand that he lives in Nashville as well as I do, and never had the opportunity to meet him. So to be able to play with him, I'm really looking forward to that, sitting him down, picking his brain a little bit and saying, tell me, tell me, tell me. And so that's going to be fun. Yeah, that's in Boca Raton. I think this is on the 21st of March.
yeah, I'm in Florida, so I'm gonna try to see that show, but I'm hoping we could get to see some duets maybe or something even. Would be
Well,
really cool.
I mean, I'd love to jump up and sing on some of his stuff. He's more than welcome to jump on the stage and sing mine. It's fun to have people up there.
Hmm.
But again, I've never sung those songs. As
Hmm.
ironically enough, when I play, I think there's two songs that I play: the Trailer Trash song and Dan Fogelberg's leader of the band. Everything else, either I wrote or Dan and I recorded,
Hmm.
and I've never stepped over playing anybody else's songs. I just never did. We had, such a volume of things ourselves. I really enjoy playing songs that I've written, new things, or just the old memory lane songs.
And can we look forward on top of the touring to seeing any new albums or any new music coming out at any point?
The thing that I've discovered about being out on the road, and I learned this back when Dan and I were working together, you come up with a new album, and so you want to present all the songs from that new album. The people that paid to see you, they want to hear "I'd Really Love to See You Tonight," "Soldier
Mhm.
in the," they want to hear all the songs that they know. So I learned to play maybe one or two new songs because they're truthfully not interested in that.
Hmm.
They want to hear what they know and what they came for. So I do it.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. It was
Oh,
truly
thank
an
you.
honor and awesome to get to hear your stories. And I can't wait to get to see you out on the road at some of your dates. And I hope everybody checks you out. You put on a great show, so
Thank you
it'll
very
be
much.
I'm sure it'll be amazing as always.
We'll have a fun time for sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.